Get up off the mat, Nittany Nation. No more tears in the beer. We got to go 1-0 this week for the whiteout because we got a home playoff game to host. Grab your pencil and your paper. It's the Obligatory PSU Pregame Show. Okay, all right, Groundhog Day with the Ohio State Buckeyes. We all know what it is, but we got to move on. It's the Obligatory PSU Pregame Show. We got the show somewhat on the road again for one more week. I'm your fake host, Chris Bucanani, with the campus legend, Mike the Mailman, here at the We Are in Philipsburg. On the road, I've got former Penn State and NFL defensive tackle Brandon Noble. Nobes, what's up?
Oh, not much. Late night last night, early morning, going. Ready to come up there. I'm excited.
Good stuff. Kevin Horn also joining us remotely through the power of technology. What's up, Horn?
Nothing. Just looking forward to trying to go 1-0 and get better every day, Chris.
Yeah, same. Not even sarcastically. All right, but let's clear the palate first. I think we have the benefit now of having had a few days since the Ohio State game. I reacted to it exactly how I expected to, exactly how I predicted I would on this show and on the podcast, which you can get wherever you listen to your podcast, the Obligatory PSU podcast, which is that I was going to be very emotional, angry, and upset right after the loss. And then I was going to incrementally come down over the following 48 hours. And then I was going to realize we still had everything in front of us to play for. So now that we have a little bit of space, a little bit of breathing room, I want to ask you guys, what's one reaction you had in the heat of the moment, either during or immediately after the game, that you may have changed your mind on? And Kevin, I'm going to start with you.
I'll give you two. I guess after the game, I thought that maybe Penn State had one wide receiver on the roster that was worthy of playing Division I football. And in hindsight, I no longer believe that. I don't think they have one wide receiver worthy of playing Division I football. So that's one thing in the heat of the moment. I thought, giving them the benefit of the doubt, maybe Liam Clifford can catch a ball or two. But no, I no longer believe that. Keandre Lambert-Smith at Auburn has more yards than our top three wide receivers combined. So that's where we're at now with that. The second one, I'll actually give a pro one. I was peeved off at Coach Franklin for engaging with the student in the student section right after the game.
Yeah.
Which is not the first time he's done that.
No.
The kid looked like a dipshit. He had on a newspaper boy hat, from Goodwill Hunting or whatever. I don't even know what he was dressed as. And I don't even know what he said. But Coach Franklin was asked him his name, and then the kid ran away. And initially I was bothered by that. And then he actually defended it on the press conference this week. He said, the guy was yelling nasty stuff in front of me and my daughter. I literally just asked the young man his name, and that was that. So although I wish perhaps he would not engage at all, I'm no longer I'm on Team Franklin with that interaction, especially given how quickly the kid folded then as soon as he was asked his name.
Okay, fair. I like that. I like that. A little negative, a little positive. And positive on James Franklin, something we are sometimes accused of not being on this program, which, believe me, we take it from both sides in terms of the Franklin haters and the Franklin sycophants both think that we're on the wrong side of the issue, which to me indicates, Mike, we're probably right where we need to be.
That's right.
But give me something that you reacted to right after the game that maybe in the light of day you see a little bit differently.
Well, I wanted to congratulate you and Kevin for sticking by your guns. You said you were not going to pick Penn State to win, and you didn't.
Yeah, no, you were a fool.
I know, and you stuck by that. I appreciate that you did that. You didn't mislead our audience. That's the thing I took away from the game. How you guys stuck by your guns and stayed with it.
Do you have a reaction to the actual football team, Mike, as opposed to your co-host?
No. Football is nothing. The co-host is everything. That's the part that's what pays the bills. You know that.
Again.
That's what we're here for.
That's right.
Why is it that you watch this show? Brandon Noble, go.
Yeah, I mean, so initially, I don't know. I actually got to sit down and watch the game this weekend, which I haven't been able to do in a long time.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, no, I know. I was down in Georgia in a hotel room, It was actually just complete sidebar. Since Mike didn't say anything, I'll add a little bit to the story. My son Jackson just graduated from boot camp, and he has been in a time capsule basically since the middle of, or the beginning, I guess, good Lord. Like August, right? So hasn't seen the TV, hasn't left Fort Moore at all. So as we're watching football over the course of the day, ESPN puts up a graphic that shows all the undefeated teams left in college football. Right? This is after Penn State, right? And He just looks at me and he was like, absolutely not. He was like, I would have never guessed that these would have been the teams, especially the Indiana one, right? Like that one sticks out. He was like, what is going on? And so it was actually really fun to watch the game with him because he has had no outside information at all. And so he was like really surprised that Michigan was bad. And, it was fun to watch it with him. Sure. I watched the game and there's really nothing after. I mean, I watched it and there were some things I was really disappointed in the offense. I was really disappointed. I don't know that it changed my mind now that where I am. I thought that the play calling caught up to Kotelnicki a little bit. I think the gimmicky thing with the big offensive lineman off the ball, that guy needs to have his hand in the dirt down there. Unless you're going to set something up with it, I was really disappointed with the offensive play calling after the game, and I think that if you go back and actually watch it again, which I've done a little bit and I've thought about it, like that Ohio State defense played lights out. Jim Knowles got the better of Kotelnicki 100%. They said, look, we're going to take Tyler Warren away. You're not going to run the football. We're going to rush 4. We're going to get to the quarterback. But we're not going to let Drew Aller throw the football to Tyler Warren. And that's what they did. They doubled him. They had a safety on him. They had a linebacker on him. They always knew where he was. And I thought really at the end of the day, I don't know if it was as much the play calling, which is kind of my default like Penn State offensive issue over the last decade, as much as it was like Jim Knowles just did a great job. And that Ohio State defense came out and played to the level that everyone thought they should have been playing for the last couple of weeks. Like they got challenged this week. You can tell they did. And they answered the bell. And I give them credit for that. The other thing, just as a sidebar, right, like as I know this is probably going to go over like a fart in church, Will Howard is a Downingtown guy. I am very good friends with the family. Gracie, my daughter, is roommates with his little sister. I have known the Howards forever. I love Will. He is a good damn quarterback. And I was a little bit happy for him because I know how much he wanted to go to Penn State. And so I know how good that felt for him and a little bit of vindication for the family. Again, it doesn't make me feel any better. And I can only say that because it doesn't matter. We're still in the hunt for the play. Like it doesn't matter. Like it's the NFL. It doesn't matter. Which is I've been completely okay with the loss. Which is I mean from the minute the clock's hit 0 to now, I've been completely okay because I understand where we are now in college football, and it really doesn't matter for me. Does it matter for James? Does it matter for the program? Absolutely, but it doesn't matter for me.
A lot of folks felt some kind of way right after the game, and I know some still do. Certainly, I could have definitely done without all of the hoopla, the national hoopla. Yeah. Mike, yeah. I don't ever want to see ESPN College Game Day at a Penn State, Ohio State game ever again, not ever again, until we beat them at least twice, okay? Because I think it contributes to Penn State becoming a national punchline. Mm-hmm. And I also think it pisses off these national media guys who have to consistently do the dance of the 7 veils where they buy in and pretend like they think it's going to be a contested game. Yep. And then you get the same result over and over again. And then I think that translates into how they cover the program. And that may, over time, impact how we're viewed, in particular by the playoff committee. So no more national spotlight until we actually beat these guys. What do you got, Kevin?
Well, I'm going to get your answer here after this, but I just want to respond to Brandon. I guarantee if you didn't watch that game with your son, but he's still on a base with no cell service and no TV, and you called him and you said, Penn State, Ohio State just happened. he could have told you exactly what happened. He would have said, well, Penn State was in the game in the fourth quarter, I'm sure, and something stupid that has not happened the last 9 times we've lost, but something stupid nonetheless occurred, and they ended up losing by a touchdown or less. I guarantee he could have had that narrative done without even watching a second of it.
He literally just came off the firing range, and Kev, it's funny because he looked at me after the game and he's like, "Well, that was normal." Yeah. Like that was literally, you know what I mean? Like he was like. He's like that. I mean, guys, if you know Jackson, right? Like that's just who he is. And he was like, "Yep." He's like, "That's exactly what I thought would happen." And he knew nothing about anything. Like literally, shocked, fell out of his chair when he saw Indiana was undefeated. But the fact that Penn State lost to Ohio State just rolled off his back.
I do have one question about the play calling. On the first drive, Penn State drove all the way doon to like the 10-yard line or something, and then they changed quarterbacks. I was surprised at that. And after that, I think they brought Gula in, and there was a penalty, and then they tried to get back to him, and they had to kick a field goal. I mean, they moved the ball all the way down there, and I'm surprised the offensive coordinator changed the quarterback when he did.
Well, a storyline that I don't think got enough play in the week leading up to the game was that Jim Knowles versus Andy Kotelnicki is a chess match that used to play out back in the Big 12 and rarely went Andy Kotelnicki's way. Now, to be fair, he did not have the same kind of talent at his disposal as he does at Penn State. Right. There was a bigger talent gap when he was at Kansas. Yeah. But nevertheless, once again, it ended up pretty much the same way. Guys, I do just want to turn around and talk for a moment about Penn State's defense. I think during the game, there was some sense of frustration with Tom Allen and with the defense in the moment. But at least from my perspective, I go back and I look at it and I think, okay, you gave up 20 points to Ohio State, partially because Will Howard fumbles at the back of the end zone. But, you got to have some luck and capitalize
that's part of the game. Yeah. Absolutely.
20 points go on the board, and you're responsible for 7 points going on the board. I'm actually quite okay with the way Penn State's defense played in that game.
I think I agree. I'm okay with how they played. They held up their end of the bargain. I do think that they were exposed a little bit in – Ohio State was more physical than they were at the line of scrimmage. And I think that I think that our athleticism and our speed sometimes doesn't marry up when people are punching us in the face. And so I think I think they played well. I think they put Penn State in a position to win. I agree with all those things. But I do think from watching it, like you were like, man, like the Buckeyes were getting after. Like there's a couple highlight clips that Ohio State football put out of that running back just tattooing people, right? Pass rushers on those quarterback leads by, when Will was running the ball at the end of the game. They came out and they were mad. Like that Buckeye team had been challenged. They had lost. They were backed up against the wall. And I talked about it before it was on the road, them against the world, the whole thing, right? You know what I mean? And I think my only thing about that defense was I think they got pushed around a little bit and out physical. Yeah. But again, that's going to happen. Like that's how they're built, which is okay. But again, they scored 7 points or 6 points, however you want to put it, and held Ohio State to 20. That's a winnable football game from a defensive effort.
Yeah. Well, it's Penn State, Ohio State. They're always going to be winnable, and we're always going to lose them. So that's just the
exactly.
Exactly. I'll give one more really controversial one, Chris, before we can move on to the next topic. This one is actually controversial. The most, if you were to ask, what are people most mad about that game after the game, it would have been the play calling on 1st and goal from the 3 in the fourth quarter. Would you agree with me on that?
I think probably the more controversial play calling sequence would be the one at the end of the game. But I think in both cases, you get inside the 5, you're paying all this money for a supposed creative genius offensive coordinator who's going to give different looks to the defense. And you come out with what Penn State did and you end up with a goose egg both times. Yeah, you're
that's
splitting
what I meant. The one at the end of the game. That's exactly what I meant. When I'm gambling, Mike, and when I'm watching a game and you need to get 3 yards or less, I am saying to myself, please run the ball 4 times in a row. What is the easiest way to get 3 yards? The highest percentage way to get 3 yards is to just run the ball, in that case, 4 times in a row. Run the ball. You let these offense coordinators get creative and stupid and you waste it down on a fade or whatever. Statistically, the number one way is to run the ball. Now, Could they have? For whatever reason, James Franklin teams refuse to line up under center. Right, we do not have a quarterback sneak program. It drives me mad. They almost taunted us. Ohio State should have been called for taunting on the next play for running a quarterback sneak for 4 or 5 yards. Right?
Oh, yeah.
For whatever reason, if you cannot sneak it into the end zone on 4 plays from the 3, why are we playing football? And why is that play not on our arsenal? I am sure that Nick Dawkins and Drew Allo are capable of snapping the ball to each other while he's lined up under center. And I don't understand why. We have never done it during the Franklin era. It makes no sense. And when you're in those short yardage situations, it hurts us. And it's hurt us a ton over the years when they just need a couple more and they can't get it. Or you direct snap to Warren or someone that is maybe a little bit bigger than Katron Allen that can maybe get a little bit more push because Katron got none. His offensive lineman didn't help him. But I wish we would run it again on the 4th play instead of throwing it. But I don't hate the decision to run it 3 times in a row. I don't, because that's statistically the most successful way to get 3 yards. We just were overmatched. I wish they had run it differently, but I don't mind 3 run plays in a row there. And that's my controversial take on the play calling there.
Yeah, you just got to execute. Yeah. All right. So we've had our palate cleansing discussion about Penn State, Ohio State. I think you just got to exercise the demons, get all of that out, because there's still so much in front of Penn State. And no matter what we think about the way Penn State played in that game, what really matters is what the people on the mysterious playoff committee think about it. Yeah. So we'll talk about where Penn State is ranked. We'll talk about what's ahead of us and what we need to do to finish this season strong. But we'll take a little break first. So we'll be right back.
Hi, everybody. Mike the Mailman with this weekend's edition of Trends to Treasure. First up this week, we have Georgia Tech versus Miami of Florida. Georgia Tech is 5-1 in the last 6 games, so the play here is Georgia Tech. The next trend this week is South Carolina at Vanderbilt. South Carolina is 8-1 in the last 9 games, 4-0 in the last 4 away games, so the play here is South Carolina. Our third trend this week is Louisiana hosting Arkansas State. Louisiana is 4-1 in the last 5 games versus Arkansas State, so the play here is Louisiana. Our last trend this week, we go to the NFL. Sorry, Chris. We have Philadelphia at Dallas. Philadelphia is 2-5 in the last 7 games, 0-6 in the last 6 away games versus Dallas. So the play here is the Dallas Cowboys. Sorry about that, Chris. That's it for this weekend's Trends to Treasure. Don't forget, everybody, with your head and not with your heart. Go get them.
This segment of Obligatory is brought to you by Concierge Medical Associates. Whether you're a weekend warrior or elite-level athlete, let Dr. Stephen Murphy and his board-certified sports medicine specialists keep you at the top of your game. Schedule an in-person or remote consultation at conciergemedical.ai. All right, so let me open with a stat, guys. So far in his career at Penn State, James Franklin, straight up after his first loss, is 5-5. Oh. Now, there was a lot of complaining and moaning and bitching and pissing around about, when are we going to have the whiteout? And why didn't you make it Illinois? Or why don't you make it the Ohio State game? And the whole time I said, this is strategically situated in a great way. So let me tell you, everybody, believe me, fellas, you're going to want that cowbell on the track. You're going to want that whiteout the week after Ohio State, because it's either going to be lit beyond belief because you're on a high like you've never experienced, or it's going to be a way to re-energize everybody for what's left in the season. So let me just first go around the horn and ask you, does that 5-5 stat give you any pause? You think James Franklin's going to have these boys focused to face a beatable Washington team under the lights in the whiteout?
Well, I think they know if they take care of business, they'll be fine. And they'll get a good spot in the playoffs. So I think he should have them all ready for this. And obviously the whiteout will definitely give them a big boost. Definitely.
Horn, I know you, like me, are a religious watcher and analyzer of James Franklin's weekly press conferences. I thought he seemed pretty calm, collected, and focused this week. So that has me feeling good. What about you?
I agree with that observation about the press conference, Chris. It probably doesn't actually matter. We're just playing ourselves. But typically after a loss, what'll happen is on Sunday, he'll take like 10 minutes of questions. He won't be able to answer any of them because he's got to look at the film. And then when Tuesday comes and they ask him the same questions, he'll say, well, I'm ready to move on to go 1-0 against Washington. So you never actually get an answer to your questions ever. This week, actually, though, he was willing to say for maybe the first time, hey, I understand that some games mean more than others. I understand that I'm judged on how I do against an Ohio State type team, which, by the way, will now be 4 presidencies since we actually beat a great team in Happy Valley. But yeah, he seemed to be in a good mood and understand the gravity of like his failures in those moments. Whereas in the past, he would just be just a little baby about it and just hammer the 1-0 stuff and not actually give people answers to the questions that people are asking. So I agree. It was a good press conference. No, I mean, look, I think it's a small sample size. I think in the past, that Ohio State game made or break your season. And now you got to win these next 4 games to accomplish what you want to accomplish. So unlike in previous years, there's still a ton to play for other than pride. I mean, we want that 8th home game. We want that 8th home game. That'll mean a ton for how we look at the season, how we view him, frankly. I mean, Penn State's going to be double-digit favorites against every team it plays the rest of the way. He drops one of these, and he's not on the hot seat, but it's warm, and people get really, really, people were pissed off this weekend. Just wait until you lose to Washington or Minnesota when you are set to host a home playoff game. I mean, that guy would be one of the biggest losers in college football history, and he may be.
Yeah, I don't even want to think about it. But for where we are right now, to answer my own question, for somebody who fixates, I think, way too much on what we think in the press, what the fans think, what the national media says about him, I think he has been around the block enough times in college football and with this program in particular to understand that we're all cheap dates. We're all going to be that obnoxious, newsy hat guy at the railing screaming at him after the game. And then, you know what? You turn around and deliver us a home playoff berth, and you're our best friend.
All's forgiven.
Yeah. So he understands that. Now, Brandon, I know you're bringing some guests to this game. So your European coaching buddies, you're bringing a German native to see his first whiteout. You're bringing a Washington alum. Any concern that this team's going to embarrass you? You're an alum of this program. This is our signature event. You feeling pretty good that we're going to come out with the dub against UW?
Yes, but I also know that by the time we get to the game, they will be feeling pretty good. So it really won't matter kind of what's going on, to be completely honest with you, after 12 hours in the parking lot.
Yes, sir.
I do feel so to go to the I don't watch the press conference. Doesn't matter, but
that's because you are a smarter, more socially well-adjusted person than myself or Kevin Horn. But go on.
But I do think from kind of listening to what you guys are saying about it, it does make sense. Again, if you go back to the fact that he understands that wasn't the end of the year for them.
Yep.
Right, like he gets that, and right, wrong, or indifferent, he's not wrong. But now he's to the point where he's now back at square one, like he would have been in 2023 now it's potentially the end of the year, right? The next 4 games or however many we got left now, right? He has to win. To win.
Yeah.
And so I do agree with you, Chris, that the fact it's a whiteout, the fact it's an 8:00 kick, the fact that it is Washington, right? The first time since the bowl game that we play in them, right? They're a good football team. They run the ball really well. Like those are things that are a little bit concerning. It's their first trip to Happy Valley. And it is a whiteout, right? So they're going to be fired up about that too. It's going to be a challenge, but I think when I look at the team and I look at the staff, they understand where they are now. I do feel good about the game. I don't think the 5-5 thing, I think they kind of hopefully got over that hump right last year. They didn't lose the bad one. So again, fingers crossed, you know what I mean? Like I said, I feel good going into it. I do.
Yeah, and you talk about what is going to get that crowd in a mindset where they can be the weapon that the whiteout is to help Penn State. To me, that came via the playoff committee rankings this week when Penn State debuted at number 6, which to me, Kevin, was best case scenario for the Nittany Lions.
Oh, it was the best they could have done. I was shocked, honestly. Even though the AP had them there, usually the playoff committee looks a little harder at Penn State's resume and they punish them a couple more points. Right. I thought we'd be at 8, and we could have been as low as 10, and yet somehow there we are. Very, very fortunate. There's literally no reason that they could explain to me why Penn State's above Tennessee, for instance, when Penn State's best win is Illinois, who's now unranked. So, it puts you in a position, frankly, to be able to lose a second game. I don't even think about it, but it puts you in a position to lose a second game. And still get in, and it gives you a chance to get that 5 seed, which is the most coveted seed, because you're probably going to be playing the group of 5 representative. So whether that be Boise State or Army or whoever, it really sets you up nicely there. I was as shocked as you were, Chris, that they were 6, but very glad to be there.
And right now, where we sit, Penn State would host the weekend before Christmas a home playoff game in Beaver Stadium against the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Now, how great would that be?
Great. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So that is right in front of us. And at number 6, you don't got a scoreboard watch.
No.
You don't got to worry about style points. You got to survive and advance, baby. You got to go 1-0 every week, 4 times. This is the first of them. We're going to talk a little bit about the whiteout and where it stands this season and randomly generate some numbers right after this. Random Number Generator is brought to you by the good folks at Anti-Fragile Brewing Company. Anti-Fragile is the official beer supplier fueling the Obligatory Pregame show. Anti-Fragile brews incredible beer we all enjoy and recommend. And check out their Moody Culture Kombucha and fill up on Uncle John's cheesesteaks. Check them out when you're in Happy Valley at 324 East Calder Way or anytime at antifragilebrew.com. It is time to do the Random Number Generator segment, Brandon Noble's favorite. I know that. But before that, before we predict the score on this one, I don't know if we're being punished, like I talked before about we keep making the national media come in here, bring the whole circus to town, and then we just give them the same result over and over again. But Penn State got banished to Siberia from a media perspective this week. The whiteout, which is the signature event for Penn State, one of the jewels in the college football crown in terms of a great tradition in a sport full of them, will be seen on Peacock.
I know.
And select IMAX theaters across the Northeast. And that's it. Let me ask you guys, do you feel like with a November game where there's maybe going to be suboptimal weather, not a great opponent, one that I think we do need to take seriously, and I think it could be a psychological boost, but we end up on, we're not going to be on national television. Probably half our fan base doesn't even know how to get Peacock. Did the athletic department step on a rake this year with the way they set up the whiteout?
It must have. And also, the television networks who the NBC, is that Peacock network?
Yeah, it is. Yes.
I think they really think that Penn State is a big following, and they'll spend the $8 or whatever it is to buy into Peacock.
And plenty of people will, and that's what this thing is all about enticing people to chip in more dollars. Yep. I get it. And maybe that's it. The whiteout is the bait on the hook this week to get those $8 subscriptions. Yeah. Did we blow this one, Noble?
I'm leaning kind of toward Mike's super positivity mode over there.
There you go.
And I do think it is a little bit of the bait, right? Hey, look, this is a big game. Everybody talks about it. Everybody, nationally, college football understands. Herb Street. Everybody talks about the whiteout. So it's like putting an NFL playoff game on Peacock, right? Or whatever they did last year, Hulu. Yeah. And, next thing I know, I've got a Hulu account that I'm still paying for, and I don't even know how to turn it on. and so I know that. So I do think that it's very similar to that, right? It is a little bit of bait. I do think that if we don't lose the game last week to Ohio State, maybe it's different. Oh, yeah. But I don't understand why they're doing it, but I get why they're doing it, right? It's a little bit of bait. The game did not become quite as important nationally as it would have been if we were undefeated going into it. Mm-hmm. And it is an opportunity to get a bunch of raving lunatics that are the Penn State fans to spend $8 and probably after a year have spent, all of those $8 every month, right? You know what I mean? Like I said, I've got a Hulu subscription. I don't even know how to log into the damn thing because I wanted to watch an NFL playoff game. So yeah, it's bait.
Right.
Okay, Kevin, I've actually got two questions for you. One is what I've asked Brandon and Mike about the Siberian gulag of Peacock. Did we mess up on this one, punting the whiteout to this late in the season? And I just want you to circle back. You and I took a lot of guff last week for saying that this Ohio State game was a house money game for all of us, and that we were going to be able to move on and get up off the mat and play for what was in front of us afterward and be psychologically better for the fan base, if not also for the team and coaching staff. I'm just wondering if you still feel that way now that we've been through the ringer of another heart-wrenching loss. So take them in whatever order you like.
Sure. Well, as far as the Peacock thing goes, I mean, look, it's not Penn State's fault. It's the conference's fault. These are every single streaming service is trying to get in on the juggernaut that is college football, and they're going to try to make their money on college football, and that's how the athletic department funds itself, right? So I hate all the streaming services. I haven't watched a game live on TV in 15 years from Penn State, so really I don't care. I just care what the kickoff time is, and anything after 3:30 is fine with me. But here's a tip, because obviously Peacock, they're not quite as bad as Fox Big Noon, but they're still a terrorist organization. Don't give them $1. Instacart. I don't know if anyone uses Instacart. Instacart is basically a service that will go to the grocery store and shop for you. Peacock does not have a free trial period because they know that every Penn State fan would do it and then they'd all cancel. Yep. Instacart, however, does have a free trial period. I don't know how long it is. It's 7 days or 14 days or whatever. And with Instacart, you get Peacock for free. So my suggestion is to sign up for Instacart, get the free Peacock service, and then cancel both of them and not give them a dime because they don't deserve it.
That's why you watch this show, right?
I love it. Absolutely.
That's right.
Which is what I'll be doing for my mother, who can't figure out how to do that. I'll be doing that for her later this week.
Good for you, Kevin. Way to go, Kevin.
Second question. Oh, yeah, no. I was as less upset after that Ohio State game than any Ohio State game since 2017, man. Like, I stand by that. Like, it obviously, again, for perception, it matters. It would be nice to get the monkey off the back. It'd be nice to stop the infighting if people would say, well, of course you're never going to beat Ohio State. You don't have as much NIL money and all those losers. No, as far as the season outlook goes, it didn't bother me at all. I'm excited to get a home playoff game. In all likelihood, odds on favorite to get a home playoff game. So sign me up for that. Let's play the 12 seed and go to the Sugar Bowl or something. Like, that sounds like a lot of fun. Yeah. And you might get a shot at Ohio State again. I mean, you can't get mad when the better team wins, and Ohio State was the better team. We find new ways to lose to them, right? Like, no offensive touchdowns after you finally have a quarterback. Like, that's cool. Taunting penalties that ruin drives. Like, that's cool. Like, these are firsts in this series. We'll find a new way to lose to them next year too. It's fine.
And I like the idea of a rematch. Hell, let's find a brand new way to beat them for the first time in forever, right? The last time we beat them was a presidential election year where everybody was angry after the result. Like, let's just let history repeat itself in that way, and we'll all feel a lot better about it. Kevin, you're on a roll. First step to that rematch is going 1-0 this week. Randomly generate numbers.
Oh, a random number? Oh, I don't know. 31-17. The line's 13.5. Yep. So it's going to be right on the number. Washington does have a decent passing attack. Will Rogers is their quarterback. He's an interesting guy. He was Mike Leach's last quarterback at Mississippi State. He's had a very successful college career. He's got to be in his 4th or 5th year by now. He's thrown for a lot of yards this year. They have a decent crop of wide receivers. They didn't lose everyone when DeBoer left for Alabama. They kept a lot of their core there. So they have a decent They have a decent offense, to be honest with you. They're not quite as good in defense. They gave up like 40-something points to Iowa for the first time in 150 years. So I expect to be able to score on them and defense play as it plays. Give me Penn State 31-17, like I said, and wait for that hook, Mike. Don't take the 13.5. Wait until either buy that away or wait till it gets down.
Okay.
Okay. So Kevin stole my randomly generated numbers. Okay. So I can't order the same thing off the menu that he just ordered. Do I want to give him an extra touchdown or an extra field goal, Mike? You pick.
Extra field goal.
Okay, I love it. So I think Washington's going to hang around for a half. I do think Penn State's defense is going to be opportunistic. They're going to give up yards, but not points. And I think as the game goes on, the team will become more focused. The crowd will stay in it. So I like the Nittany Lions 34-17. Mike the Mailman, what do you got?
Yeah, I think it's time for Penn State offense to really score some points against a good team. So I think I like Penn State to win by 23 this weekend.
Okay, let me ask you this. I know you're not going to give me a full randomly generated score.
Yes.
But we don't have to worry about style points
That's
at
right.
6 in the committee rankings. It'd be nice.
Yeah.
Penn State cracked 40 in this one.
37.
Okay. All right. I would love to see a 4 in the 10s column.
Yeah, right.
But I don't know. I don't think so. Brandon Noble, you're going to play host here in Happy Valley this weekend. Take us out.
Let's go 42
There you go.
21.
There you go.
Nice.
And your thoughts on how the game will play out?
I think I agree. I think in the first half, right, there's energy, for both teams, right? It's a huge environment. It's a great. Every single college football player in America would love to run out onto that field during a whiteout. It's an 8:00 kick. I think everybody's going to be excited about it. I think they'll be excited about it. I do think that we kind of withstand the initial body blows, and then eventually, like Kevin said, right, defensively they're not as good as they were last year or have been. I think we can score some points. I think Nick Singleton and Katron Allen have big days. I think people are going to keep taking Tyler Warren away until we figure out a way to do something with somebody else, whoever that is. And but I do think we're able to run the football, and we just kind of wear them down and get a couple big ones. And maybe the defense scores again. Why not?
That'd be good.
So the journey is far from over. This is just the end of the beginning, not the beginning of the end.
That's right.
We appreciate you being here with us at the We Are In on the Obligatory PSU Pregame Show all year long. My parting thoughts for you, some pro tips. Number 1, thank you so much, Kevin Horn. Get an Instacart subscription.
Thank you.
Don't give
Amazing.
Peacock any money. Lots open at 8 a.m. If you're coming to the game, I'll see you there. And what real pros understand is that when you're tailgating in the lots, you have your blues on. You save your whiteout outfit for just before you go in the stadium, so you don't dribble steak juice or something down the front of it like I did one year. And I think that's actually why we lost to Michigan in 2006. So I apologize to everyone. So those are your pro tips. And one more pro tip for all of yous: take care of yourselves and each other. We are. Go State. Beat Washington. Host that playoff game.